Mesdames et messieurs, bonjour. Première conférence de ce Maritime Day. Merci d'être tous présents. Alors avant de commencer, parce que cette conférence se déroulera en anglais, et uniquement en anglais, néanmoins, pour disposer des traductions en français, je vous invite à scanner le QR code qui est affiché là derrière, ce qui vous permettra comme ça d'avoir les traductions depuis votre téléphone si vous le souhaitez. Voilà, donc ça c'était l'introduction. Je vous souhaite la bienvenue à la SITL. Mon nom est Hervé Dess, je suis rédacteur en chef de Port et Corridor et j'ai le plaisir d'animer cette conférence. And well, we're going to get in English now because we've got a 100% conference in English, and today's conference is theme about decarbonization of maritime transport. Well, just to get a few words about that, you know that this sector, the maritime transport, is emits about 3% of greenhouse gas emission annually. So it's quite important. And as you're aware, IMO regulations mandate shipping companies to reduce their emissions by 20% to 2030. It's saying it's in a few years, 6 years now, compared to 2008 emissions. So, and afterwards, they have to achieve 70% for 2040 and get a net zero emission in 2050. So it means, I've got a little problem with my microphone, I think. It seems that, well, decarbonization in shipping is well on the way. It's paving the way to a new shipping like we didn't see before. And but we must understand that in another broader way. It's saying that decarbonization shipping is not only the shipping leg. It's saying from a port to another port. It's more on a global logistics chain and supply chain. It's saying from the inland to the inland, and that means that shipping is part. And that's why we have with us different part of the shipping logistics chain. We scheduled to have a shipping company, which was Hapag-Lloyd, but unfortunately, he just have a meeting today, and so he just asked us to apologize for him, and I'll just get some 2 or 3 elements he gave me yesterday. But we have on the scene, we have Chris Danaraggio. Please apologize for the mistake in the names, which is Deputy Managing Director of Aropa Port. We have Luc Arnoux, which is Vice President of the Port of Antwerp, Bruges. We have Stéphane DEFIVES, which is Managing Director of Sea Logistics from Kuehne+Nagel. And we have Eric Martin Neuville, Executive Vice President of Global Freight Forwarding, Geodis. So thank you to join us. And we just gonna manage that conference by 1 or 2 questions before, and then get onto the room just if you have some questions about that. The first questions which I'd like to ask you, each of you, it's what actions do you take to decarbonize shipping at your level? So the first is to Chris, and so can we have the first slide, please? And so, what are the actions you do?
Thank you very much for inviting me to this conference. So, as you said, maritime transport is facing an issue of sustainability in the coming years, and naturally, ports are definitely committed into offering a part of the solution to decarbonize the sector. Just for the first point, I will just say that no one has a crystal ball to foresee what will be the real fuel of tomorrow. Naturally, for the moment, e-methanol seems to be the most adequate fuel chosen by some shipping companies, but because it has some properties, some interesting properties, it is not toxic, its emission of carbon is very low. but things may change in the coming future. So nothing is completely, the picture is not completely clear for the moment. Yet, I'm convinced that ports like Europa will be able to provide the right molecules at the right time. Because, first of all, we are a hub for energy. We have historically been a hub for energy. And we are also a cluster of chemical activities on ports. These chemical activities were historically based on fossil fuels, naturally, but you know, this cluster is renewing itself to propose this kind of new molecules to the industry. And just for example, Europa Port had just dedicated, just last year, a plot of 24 hectares for a major project led by ENGIE, an operator of energy in France, with a dual project. One is called Salamand to produce biomethane, which can be used for maritime sector, and the other one is called Kerosene to propose sustainable aviation fuel for the aviation sector. Another similar project is also slated in Rouen by Verso Energy, and all these projects, let's be clear, all these projects for this moment focus on the aviation sector because the picture is more clear about the needs. There is an EU regulation imposing the right percentage of, I will say, the right percentage of sustainable aviation fuel in the mix to produce fuel for the aviation sector. For maritime sector, naturally, the picture needs to be precise in the coming years. But I'm quite convinced that we have all the ingredients with energy, with electricity, with hydrogen, with carbon dioxide, and with all this know-how to produce the fuel of tomorrow. That's the first point.
Thank you, Chris. So now let's say about Luc, which is the Vice President of Port of Antwerp Bruges. Luc, what sort of action do you take to decarbonize shipping?
Thank you, Chairman. Well, first of all, I want to show you the first in the world tugboat on hydrogen. So we are not just talking about decarbonizations, we are actually doing it on our own fleet. Perhaps the next slide. Je peux avoir la slide suivante? Oui, c'est ça. Very quickly, Port of Antwerp-Bruges, but really in one word. In April 2022, the Port of Zeebrugge and the Port of Antwerp merged into the Port of Antwerp-Bruges. So for some who are not that familiar with the maritime scene, interesting to know. So it's one of the major ports in Europe, 271 million tons we handled last year. It's the largest car handling port in Europe, basically in the world, with 3.6 million cars. And important in terms of, in the framework of the discussion of today of decarbonization, we also host the largest chemical cluster in Europe. Chris, you have been talking also about chemistry. Why do I put that there? Because the discussion of today is about decarbonization and fuels, which means greening the energy we use. But another aspect, which is, to my belief, even more complex, is going to be to decarbonize the industry. So it's not only about the energy, but also about the industry. And especially on the chemical industry, it's still highly based on fossil fuels. It's oil, gas, naphtha, which we will have to replace by new green molecules to produce green chemical products. A main import hub for liquid natural gas for Europe, 15% entering via the Port of Antwerp-Bruges, and of course a big employer. Next slide, please. And I think that's my last. Yes. So what do we do? To reach this main target, we set ourselves as EU to be climate neutral by 2050. Well, I've put 6 elements there on the slide, what we are doing. First of all, the focus of EU policy is to produce as much as possible locally green electrons and green molecules. So green electricity, green fuels for shipping, green fuels for all the energy, housing, heating, and so on. But also produce green molecules. Think of green ammonia, green methanol, green hydrogen locally. So different initiatives taking place in the port to produce locally green hydrogen, for instance, Plug in Antwerp, High of Wind in Zeebrugge. Second thing, we will not have enough. We don't have enough sun and wind and hydro energy in Europe to produce green electricity enough to decarbonize the whole industry and the whole electricity need, so the whole energy need. That's why we will have to import, number 2 on my slide, we will have to massively import green electrons and green molecules to decarbonize. How will we do that? We have been working together with partners, looking in different countries of origin, how we can produce, transport the green molecules, which will most probably be green ammonia and green methanol, to the port of Zeebrugge and bring it via pipeline to the industry in Antwerp and further on in Europe. That's our point 3. What are we doing? We are working on import infrastructure because we will need massively terminals to receive these green molecules. And if it's, for instance, green ammonia and we want to bring it back to green hydrogen, we will also have to install cracking installations. So that is actually going on the port side. So import infrastructure, but also the transport infrastructure. The importance of pipelines, which today is already a basic and the most ecologically friendly way to transport goods, we'll have to further build that infrastructure, and actually we are constructing or starting to construct the additional pipeline infrastructure to transport fuels, green fuels. Then circular economy, dedicated area in the port has been assigned for circular economy. I'm talking about chemical recycling of plastic waste, for instance, but also production of green hydrogen. Number 5, if we still produce carbon dioxide, there is CCUS, capture it, bring it in gaseous form to a liquefaction plant, liquefy it, and then store it in old oil and gas fields or reuse it. We are also today talking about blue energy on ships, carbon capture on ships, so that catched carbon will also have to come on land and be processed further. So that's where we are working on this CCUS. And now very important, multi-fuel port. Today we are one of the major bunkering ports. Of course, it's still a lot of fossil fuels. We are ready for the intermediate solution, LNG. Ships are bunkering LNG on a daily basis in the port. And then the fuels of the future. Electricity, green hydrogen. We have the first tanking station for trucks, cars and small ships already in the port, but we'll need to upgrade that. We are working on this import infrastructure which can distribute green methanol and green ammonia for ships. So multi-fuel port is one of our major projects to remain that important bunkering port, also for the green molecules of tomorrow. Onshore power, evidently. How can we reduce the emissions in the port of ships? It's onshore power, of course. Greening our fleet, I showed you the hydrogen. And green corridors. It's connecting 2 green ports with low-emitting or zero-emitting ships, so contributing to the greening of the shipping industry worldwide. That's in short.
Thank you, Luc. Thank you. So we just heard about 2 port authorities. Quite interesting to see this part of the shipping logistics chain. And now we just have another part. It's not a competitor. It's more on the freight forwarding. First of all, I'd like to ask Stéphane DEFIVES from Kuehne+Nagel. So what sort of action do you take to decarbonize shipping logistics chain?
So thank you very much for your invitation. So I mean, the decarbonation is to act short and to think long term. Today, this is a long-term strategy, so we are mainly talking about 2030, 2040, 2045, 2050. The investment that are supposed to be done on the shipping industry to make it happen, it's also a very long-term strategy. As you mentioned also, the decarbonization of the shipping, it's an action that has to be done by a lot of actors. So we all have to play a game in this topic. So the logistics, as you mentioned, the shipping lines, the trucking company, because it's not only the port-to-port section, it's also the pre or post transportation, and we also have to work based on the let's say new regulation that we also have on our desk today. So what are we doing? We as Kuehne+Nagel first. I mean, to be able to act, we also have to measure. So the first things, you know, that we are also providing an IT solution to measure the, let's say, the CO2 emission. We are providing, let's say, platform to support the decision from our customer. And again, when we are able to measure, we are also able to act. So what are we doing in terms of action? It's also to support any kind of initiative which are supporting this decarbonization of the transportation. So today, here in France, we have the wind solution. We are also working with some association to support any kind of initiative that can, again, improve the situation. In terms of support and day-to-day action is also to to push the existing solution, because we are talking about, let's say, the biofuel today on the shipping. We are talking about the LNG, which is the short-term solution, but we are also trying to support the long-term solution. I think some colleagues were talking about the ammoniac, most probably in 2030, 2040, or also the biomethanol or the biomethanol or biomethane, which are also another solution. So on the other side, on the pure, let's say, inland solution, there is already quite a large solution to support the decarbonation of the transport. We have this, I would say, the barge system. In France, it's around 15 different services with electric barge, with LNG barge, which are also existing. We have 25, 26 rail solution also to support the pre- and post-transportation in the country. With, of course, electric train, and the last mile solution with, again, a multiple range of solution with let's say, the HVO, the electric car, truck, sorry, or again, the LNG solution. So all these kind of solution, which are the short-term one, we are trying to support, and we are also trying to support and invest on the long-term strategy to make sure that we can continue to support the decarbonation of the transportation.
Thank you, Stéphane. And so now let's turn to Eric Martin-Neuville. So what sort of action do you take to decarbonize shipping for Geodis?
Thank you. First of all, a small clarification. I do work for Geodis, and I'm paid by Geodis every month, but I'm also representing today TLF Overseas, which is the French Freight Forwarders Association. To answer the question, we are freight forwarders. Freight forwarders organize transportation intercontinental for their customers. For many years, we were doing this around 3 axes: security and safety, transit time, and cost. Over the recent past, a 4th element is becoming very critical, and our customers are asking us, when we make a study for them, to include the climate element or the level of greenhouse gas emission. So what is our role as an industry? The first one is very basic. We need to do what everybody else has to do, which is to reduce a Scope 1 and Scope 2 emission. And around ocean transport, for us, it would mean having state-of-the-art CFS station or having the best possible emission level transportation means in our fleet if we operate our own fleet. That's basic stuff. The second element, which is becoming more and more difficult, but which continues to constitute a solution, is to help our customers optimize the way they ship in terms of how much cargo do you put in a container, or how do you shift from one mode to the other. That's the easy way, because that way you save cost and you save in terms of emissions. So we continue to advocate and help customers think in that line. And the third part, which is probably the part where I want to spend a bit more time, is how do we propose to customers solutions which are the best solutions available on the market? And therefore, how do we encourage those solutions to be invested in and to be deployed? If Hapag-Lloyd had been here, I would have said, it's not only the role of Hapag to invest in specific solutions. We all as a community need to help Hapag. And to help Hapag, we need to channel funds into this type of solution. So as Geodis, we do 2 things. First, we used to operate with what we called Ocean Save. Best economical solution is Ocean Fast, faster solution on a specific port pair. We have now created Ocean Smart, which is proposing on a specific port pair the best solution in terms of green gas emission. And that means sometimes as much as 30% emission saving in terms of CO2. So evaluating the various solutions on the market and telling our customers, if you use that vessel on that loop, on that port pairs, you will save quite a bit in terms of CO2. And the second thing we do is to propose what is today probably the most efficient steel solution on the market, which is biofuel or sustainable marine fuel. And we have a product offering which is carrier neutral, which is simple to use, and which enables an entry level from 1 to 100% of decarbonation to all our customers. And we also believe that by doing that, we will drive investment into that area, and we will continue to decrease the price of fuel and make more and more fuel available.
Thank you, Eric. I'll just I just had Clauss from APAC yesterday, so he sent me a few words just to get, because you spoke about it, and you're right. There's one or two things interesting that what you all said. The first one is I like your formula: act short, think for long term. That's correct. That and all decarbonization, that's a real thing. And there's another thing that Eric Martin said. Eric Martin Neville said, it's that shipping companies are not the only one to invest in the logistic shipping chain. And we saw it by what do Port of Antwerp and Europa Port do for the decarbonization on the shipping. So just give me 2 minutes to add some words from Clauss. So Clauss, well, apologize for his not to be here present today. He just told me that APEX's global strategy, which everybody knows well, I'm not going to come back on that. I'm not here to make some ad for APEC Lloyd. Our mission is to reach net zero by 2045, and already by 2030, we wish to reduce our emission by 1/3 compared to 2022. So that's quite interesting. He just told me that APEC Lloyd explores various types of potential sustainable energy source for our vessels. And neither are we certain that there is one solution. That was what said either Europa and Luc from Antwerpen. We test different energies and also collaborate in a transparent manner with other companies in order to compare notes on the most optimal solution. And he just came back on the IMO regulation, which he say is essential in fostering the best possible environmental behavior among shipping companies, and the green balance mechanism. Well, that's World Shipping Council who just proposed that solution a few weeks ago. He thinks it's a fine proposal where green propulsion systems are being incentivized. In other words, the companies who take the situation seriously are being compensated financially for doing so, while the ones taking it less seriously are being penalized. We're also convinced that being transparent on this would impact customer behavior and carrier selections. So that's few words from APEC Lloyd about the action they take. I'd just like to do the same round table with another question. Now that we saw that everybody's going to do something on the decarbonization of shipping, what do you expect from your partners as your all partners in that? But what do you expect on the partners as port of the authorities, as the freight forwarders on this decarbonization? We're going to do the same thing too. Chris, what is your expectation?
One point also to mention and to highlight is the fact that even if you have the right molecules, you need also to have the right bunkering solution. And we have to anticipate the solution for bunkering these new molecules. And as we already mentioned, all these molecules has different characteristics, different safety conditions, etc. So the path to regulate the bunkering solution will be a bit complicated, in fact. We have the experience, we have the know-how to do that, because we were one of the ports LNG ready a few years ago in 2016, in fact, and we need to do the same thing with the local authorities. And the way to regulate this kind of bunkering solution is quite simple. Now you have to do appropriate studies, you have to define protocols, and then validate protocols with all the professionals and all the authorities to define the right condition to do the bunkering solution. Another point also I would like to mention, what can we expect from professional? As you already mentioned, decarbonization is a real challenge for shipping companies, but it's also a challenge for the industrial cluster. And when you have two challenges on the same area, it creates an opportunity. And our role as ports, I think, is to animate and to lead this opportunity, to foster synergies, to lead common programs, common projects. And I will just mention one major common project we are leading on Europa ports. We have been labelized as ZBAC, the zone bas carbone, low emission zone in English, by the French government, because the French government wants to focus on the three port zones in Dunkerque, Marseille, and Europa ports to decarbonize all the sectors. And in the framework of this program, subsidized by the French government, we will lead something like 30 studies with the industrial sectors, with the shipping companies, with all the partners available and ready to join this common initiative. And what we can expect, naturally, if shipping companies can participate in the studies, they can help us also finance the remaining cost to be financed. Well, that's one point. But moreover that, I will say the most important is to share data. We need data to approach the real truth of decarbonization and how we can foster synergy between different sectors. So my invitation is to just join us to participate in these studies, share data. Naturally, we can have some confidential, non-disclosure confidentiality agreement just to protect this data. But it's very important to have the real perception, the real vision of the professionals.
Thank you, Chris. Luc, do you think, what do you expect from the others, of the other partners of the logistics chain?
It's crucial, Hervé. It's really crucial. I want to make this general remark. We have really seen, I think all of us in this VUCA world, in this complex world, we really can't do it on our own. We need to work together. And if we learn something from COVID, it should be that, working together. And what we have learned from practice, and I want to share that practical experience, we started with these projects in the green transition with what one calls usually coalition of the willing. Well, it didn't really work, because the willing were sitting around the table and learning and listening to one another. So we changed it into the coalition of the engaged. So we said, if we jointly want to work on carbon capture, for instance, or we want to go for importing of green ammonia, we need partners that engage. So we were asking either money or manpower to put into the project. So defining a very tangible project and asking for engagement, that was key to success. But again, collaboration. So that's one initial thought I had. Second one, I really like Chris' remark on the bunkering. This is a crucial point, and we are really happy to see so much collaboration today between the ports. We need to set up the framework for bunkering green ammonia and all the new ones. We need to set up procedures. We need to work on the regulation. We need to do lobbying to change legislation. All these things we cannot do as a single port or as a single player. We need to work together there. And that's going on, for instance, in IAPH, the International Association of Ports and Harbors, taking a clear position there. WPCAP, World Port Climate Program. All these things is bringing partners together for a very tangible goal. In this case, set up a clear, safe system for bunkering. An important element there is what is called SIMOPS, simultaneous operations, which means that we, of course, don't want to lose time, and the bunkering operation of, for instance, green ammonia should take place at the same moment of loading and unloading of the ship. But this evidently requires very strict rules, very strict regulation, very strict procedures. And don't forget, there are many terminals that are not used to handle dangerous goods. And now suddenly they are confronted with a dangerous good, which is green ammonia. So we also have to assist handling companies and work together with the handling companies to make this really happen. And a last thing of collaboration, I'm looking to the consumers, chargeurs, transitaires. We always talk about the gap in cost. If you want to green, there is the price of the gray fuel versus the green fuels, be it biofuels or ammonia, whatever. This gap, if you translate that has been done so many times in study, if you translate that to the final product in a container, pair of shoes, we are talking about cents. You're not talking about euros even. So we really need to convince, and that's each of us in this room as a consumer, that we need to pay a little bit, not so much, but a little bit more. And if we do, all of us in the supply chain will have enough funds to really go for a speeding up of the green transition. So my call for collaboration is also to include us as end users, to realize that there is no free show in this, but the goal is so fine, is so important to save mankind, not the planet. The planet will survive. But if we as a whole, as humankind, want to survive, we now need perhaps to invest a little bit to make this transition go much faster. Here I stop because I sound like a preacher.
I thought you were just being in a political meeting, something like that.
It's more a priest. I feel like a priest.
Yeah. It's patient now. It's not on a professional way. It's on a patient way. Stéphane, what do you expect from the other partners as a freight forwarder?
So, I mean, what are we expecting from our partners? In partners, I will also include our customers. As Martin was saying just before, we are organizing transport, okay, logistics. So we are only one piece of the puzzle, and our customer, they are more and more mature on this topic. In the last decades, they were focusing mainly to decarbonize their, let's say, their product, their factories. Now they are fully engaged in this topic. And their expectation towards, let's say, all the supply chain, all logistics, I would say, service provider, are more and more important. So what are we expecting from our partners and our customers is to rethink also the supply chain to see how we can do on a different way. Potentially also to look about the sourcing area. Do we have to continue to outsource everything from, let's say, some specific area in the world? The collaboration also with our partner, to work with them, carriers, truckers, I would say ports, to see how we can transform our industry and to support the current and existing solution. We were just talking about the biofuel and the existing one that we really have to support, and I fully also agree about the cost. So it's also to change our mind. If we want to do something, we also have to accept to make some investment and to make also some efforts. And this cannot be done only by one actor. Eric was just saying, it's not only a Pagloid, it's not only the shipping line what has to invest and has to do something. It's all the actors of the supply chain. And again, I would say last but not least, again, is to invest as a freight forwarder also in data and in technologies, because I'm also strongly convinced that if we can measure, we can start to, let's say, to think about the action and to start to reduce. So again, it's to really also continue to develop I would say data and IT solution to also provide this to our customer and support any kind of, let's say, new decision, a new way of thinking the supply chain.
Thank you, Stéphane. Eric, well, you spoke about, you told us that you were geodis, they pay you each month, but you're also on TLF. And for the TLF manager and the geodis manager, what do you expect from the other ones on the supply chain?
It's a bit difficult to say what do I expect from the other one. I think we will achieve this together or we will not achieve it at all. But there are a few things which are short-term important. I think Chris mentioned data, and I think it's critical that we get to a very granular level of data. I'm going to give an example. I said that we provide customers options based on the level of CO2 emission between Shanghai and Le Havre. Most shipping lines today still do not provide data which is per vessel, per service, consumption, type of fuel, etc., etc. And therefore, we work on averages. And as long as we work on averages, the effort we make do not show on the calculation we provide. And as long as you cannot show your management that the $50 extra you have invested, which Luc was talking about, are not playing a role in the calculation of emission, it will not work. we need ocean carriers to give us more data. There is a gap between the ocean world and the air freight. In air freight, the data is much more fine-tuned than it is in ocean, and that's important. The other thing I want to mention for the port operators, there is an option to shift more cargo from road to short sea. And the real key to this is transit time. And one of the elements which will help transit time is the transit in the port. And I think the more effort you can make in making that port transit for short sea the shorter, the more we will gain in that respect.
Thank you. Just let me give you 2 or 3 words Clauss sent me yesterday. He just, about the expectation about the other partners on the supply chain, he just told me that we are not in a position to impose behavior on our partners. However, we would like to have what we call a level playing field, just what Luc said us, and that legislation also helps us to pursue all green initiatives. It is obvious that if a port, a terminal, or another supplier provides cost-competitive green solution, then we need to prioritize this and also make sure that this passed on to our customer and not only consumer. Because that one of the real problem with the real initiative when decarbonization is who will pay that's cost. Who will pay it? And so it's a question, but do you have somebody got the answer around this table? Everyone, everybody. Okay, so get on your purse. Well, we got a few minutes for getting the microphone to the room. If there is any questions, don't worry. I've got a lot of questions too, but please be the first one to get. It's quite difficult on the morning, and it's in English, but you can ask questions in French. Everybody understand, and we are just understand that. Yes, nice. Yeah. Can we give him a microphone, please? Can we give him a? Oh, thank you. It comes. Please introduce yourself before.
Yes, hello. I am Laurent Amou. I am from LNG, the French LNG terminal operators, and I have a question for Luc ARNOUTS for the port of Antwerp-Bruges. You have a wonderful asset in Belgium, which is the Bruges LNG terminal. We have 1,000 LNG ships running or being built now. We have bio-LNG, we have methane. And in your presentation, you presented everything, but never mentioned methane. Why?
Luc? No specific reason for that, because it's included as well, liquid methane, so that's part of the game. Easy answer. I just forget to mention it. You're in the game.
Thank you. Is there another questions? Don't be ashamed. I know it's early in the morning. Well, it's 10:30, but we just a bit more. So I've got some questions. Yeah, Eric, you just want to?
Yeah, maybe I can bounce back on what we said about who pays for that. I think we need to be conscious. We are in an industry which has a big responsibility towards green income. As an industry, we emit the equivalent of what Germany as a country emits every year. So we have a big responsibility. The cost to solve that problem will be very significant. We will not escape from paying that cost. And we cannot rely on the other to pay for that cost. It's very clearly, we are an industry as a whole, and not specifically freight forwarding, which has limited margin. We will not be able to pay for the entire investment. It's not possible. So it has to be shared between the merchandise and between the industry, and we need to find the best solution to share that cost.
Thank you. Luc, just to comment?
Can I just add, because it's fantastic to hear this. We see today that some incentives are being given, rebates on shipping lines for use of green or for green ships or low emission vessels. Also, we as Port, we are giving via the ESI, Environmental Shipping Index mechanism, we are giving a reduction on port use. But honestly, I think this is bullshit. I think each of us in the chain, exactly what you have been saying, is doing a lot of investments. We all are taking costs on us. Ports, terminals, shipping lines, forwarders, trucking companies, everybody is doing investments in this green transition. So why should we help one another with the means that we really need to decarbonize our own part of this? So it's a joint effort, and honestly, I'm not too happy with incentivizing systems between partners of us. If governments want to help us to close the gap of the cost, that's great. But amongst the players in the supply chain, I would really not do this.
Does it mean for you that this decarbonization means a reduction of the margins of all your industries, or does it just mean that the final consumer needs to pay a bit more and it will take all the cost of the decarbonization?
My answer is no. I think we should all bear the cost and spread the cost.
Yes, Eric, Stéphane?
It has to be shared. It has to be shared. And whether it will damage the margin or not will be the result of competition. But those costs have to be shared in a formula which has not been found up to now.
Thank you. Yes, Chris?
Just to lower this investment, we need to have, I insist on that, we need to have a clear picture. And the point is that we do not want to invest for nothing, in fact. So it will be quite difficult to have a wide range of solutions for decarbonize. So we need to be focused on a few solutions and to concentrate our effort on this solution. I think that's a way to don't waste our time, don't waste our energy, and we don't waste our money also.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, Luc?
But I want to give hope. Hope to the world. There are good mechanisms that can help us. In Germany, there is H2 Global as an example. What is this organization doing? They make long-term contracts with, on the one hand, the suppliers of green fuels, green molecules. On the other hand, they make long-term deals with off-takers. There is, of course, a difference in price. But in the contract, the price level goes gradually down over a longer period of time. I'm talking about 6 to 10 years of time. And the difference, which you can easily calculate, because it's contract for fixed quantities at fixed prices, going over time down or up, depending on supplier, that is compensated by a government support. But the government knows exactly, the EU authorities know exactly what is the money they need for one specific program. And it can help suppliers to start producing and delivering the product. And for buyers, they know at which price they will buy the green molecules. So there are mechanisms that can speed up the system.
Thank you. I've got one or two questions about for you. I just heard about Aéroport, which is on promoting the green corridor. Is it today green corridor is included in the decarbonization of logistics shipping supply chain, or how do you manage that?
Of course, the decarbonization of the maritime sector will not be enough. You have also to consider the transportation on the land side. And we offer with the Seine River and with the direct connection between Le Havre and Paris, a green corridor to have a point-to-point solution to decarbonize the logistics chain. I think that's something very important to present also to the customer, because if he has to pay for the decarbonization of the maritime sector, it certainly wants to be convinced that the whole logistics chain is also decarbonized. So that's a major asset we want to highlight in the future.
Thank you, Chris. Luc, we heard a lot of things this morning. What's for you the main action to take for decarbonization of shipping?
Set tangible goals and go for it together. So stop the talking and go for the action. And the action really means bringing different partners together, shipping lines. A green corridor can be a very tangible project, where you really say, on this specific connection, we really want to realize 5 years from now, 3 years from now, that KPI. So for me, the way forward is to really go for action now. I think the time for a lot of discussions which has been going on, we need to break that. And a very important point to move forward is, and it's very difficult, is the choice of the fuel of the future. Will not be one, but can't be 20, because that's just unaffordable. So how can we progress in limiting the number of choices of future fuels? Because also for us as sport, a lot of investment, we can't do it all. So that's for me still a big question. How can we fasten up the decision on what kind of fuels will be the real fuels of the future? I hope shipping lines are going to help us with that.
We'll see who lives see. Stéphane, we speak about a lot of things this morning. We spoke about a lot of things this morning, but there's one thing we just mentioned quickly is wind propulsion. Do you think this is the tomorrow shipping lines will be wind propulsion?
Well, I don't know if it's the let's say the ultimate solution. It's one solution. I don't think that we can solve the, let's say, the climate topics with only one solution. It will be let's say multiple options that we have to investigate and potentially to support. The wind solution, if we talk about the French market, is probably, let's say, one of the good solutions. But here again, same discussion that we have all together. It's also a question of cost. If we are expecting to pay the same price to use a wind vessel versus, let's say, the standard one, I mean, it's, again, as I was saying just before, we really have to change our mind and to rethink the supply chain if really we want. And like Luc was just saying, now it's time to act, to do, and not to talk anymore. So, and the same, if we talk about the inland transportation, you know, if we want to use a diesel truck, or if you want to use an electric one, and tomorrow morning, I would say an hydrogen truck, it will not be the same cost. So if we have the same expectation, at least the cost expectation, to do the same transportation, it will never work. So because here again, we are also talking about huge investment, and again, I'm fully aligned with what we are just saying before. I mean, we have to share the bill. And again, it's a question of it's a strategy and it's a political also decision to, let's say, to move forward on this direction. But clearly, I mean, we have all the tools now. We already have some existing solution to move forward. We have to start with something and to continue to support the new initiative. And again, the wind solution is one of the initiatives that we, as Kunegel, will also try to support.
Thank you, Stéphane. Eric Martin Deville, you spoke during one of your speech that shippers must be included in this. What do you expect that shippers can do in the decarbonization of shipping from a freight for oil point of view?
So now I'm going to make a call for action now. I think what is missing today from the shipper community at large, and there are exceptions, is funding in this area. If I take the example of, we are active in several markets, but our Scandinavian customers, who are very active in this field, spend 10 times more money per TEU shipped on sustainable fuel than the French ones. And without that funding, the investment Luc was asking for, to define which one is the best fuel for the future, how to get that fuel into the port, etc., will not happen, and we will not be successful. The same thing with Stéphane. France has had a lot of initiative around wind-propelled container ships. A lot of us have spent a lot of time to try to bring one of those initiatives to market. But at the end of the day, none of them have been particularly successful, at least the sizable ones, because there is no commitment from the merchandise. And as long as the shippers do not agree to fund those initiatives, the industry itself will not be able to do it. It's a risky element. It's a long-term element. It's a very expensive element, which is beyond the means of the industry alone.
Thank you, Ray. Is there any questions? We've got just two or three minutes left. Is there any question from the room? Yeah, there's somebody. We've got one question down here. The microphone is coming. Last question. Just come in front. We'll just try to. I get mine.
Hi, nice to meet you all. I'm here with a new startup called Flybox. Thank you. My question is, you've all been talking about data, and everybody uses this four-letter word a lot of the time and saying, we need to share data, we need to share data. But what are you guys doing really to share data? Okay, you can sign NDAs or whatever, but what actions, because you're talking about now taking short actions now for the longer term, but what are you for individually doing now to share the data between you to make it a better place for sustainability?
Yeah, nice, interesting. Well, and this will be our conclusion. Just coming from Eric, which begins. Eric, what do you do for sharing data? Just 30 seconds.
No, but our data is available. For the purpose of emission calculation, we do not reject sharing data. We neutralize the data, but we share the data. And we participate in a number of initiatives around data with Eco-Transit, with Clean Cargo, et cetera, to make sure that the data is usable. I would be very interested, madam, to exchange with what is your product offering, because we need to improve on the data sharing.
Stéphane?
More or less the same, but we are also, we also have invested a lot in our own platform with our own development, because as Eric was mentioning during the discussion this morning, when we are working with the shipping line, we are mainly working with average data, which are not, let's say, accurate enough, again, to get the right picture. So we have developed our own product to make sure that we are able to measure vessel per vessel, including the pre- and pre-transportation. And of course, these data are available as soon as our customers are requesting to issue this CO2 report. And again, based on this report, it's just also to issue the report, but also it's a tool to support any kind of decision, because today our customer, they can decide to switch from one vessel to the other one based on the, let's say, on the quality of the vessel. If we're talking about LNG vessel, talking about the old one with the, let's say, full emission. So again, either it's a tool for decision, or it's also a tool for, let's say, to issue the reporting.
Thank you. Luc, 2 seconds, 3 maybe.
Yeah, because this is a question for a full session. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay, very quickly, as ports, we don't produce that many data, but we do foresee in our port platform a data sharing platform called Nextport that brings all the data together. Second, we invite the port community to meetings to really discuss the trusts and to make sure that the data comes onto our data platform. Thirdly, our own data. We have a full operational digital twin, which is available for third parties operating on the port, getting all the data on the nautical operations happening in the port. So it's a full open approach.
Thank you. Chris, to end.
Just one way to share data is to lead studies together, in fact. You give data, and then you receive also results. It's a win-win partnership, in fact. That's the way.
Thank you. We have, I think, 2 or 3 minutes more. But thank you for everybody. Please just applaud our speakers on this morning. And I hope we see you next time in the next future. Thank you.